Rhys's dad goes out because Tamlin actually kills him. It's the whole thing that makes Tamlin and Rhysand High Lords to begin with. So Rhysand is born. He's the firstborn son of this family. His sister is born afterwards. And at some point, they acquire Cassian and Azriel into the family. And these three, they love each other. Cassian and Azriel brought into the family as their own. I actually think that that Cassian and Azriel were might have been legally adopted into the family, especially because Cassian didn't have a family of his own at this point. And Azriel had been basically abandoned. And I figure that Azriel's mom wasn't necessarily in the position to take care of him at this point. So Azriel went off to live with Rhysand and his family. My personal theory is that their last name is Haviliard after Dorian Haviliard, because Manon would have taken Dorian's name when they ultimately get married and have a dozen immortal babies. Okay. Young baby bat boys, they grow up. I think Rhysand's father sees that he has three of the most powerful Illyrian warriors on his hands at this point. And after they become Corinthian, right? That's how that's. Anyway, at that point, the first war, the first Fae war, the Amarantha thing with Jurian and Morrigan and all that stuff, they end up being conscripted into this war, and I guess that's when Morrigan comes into the picture. And then Morrigan gets added into the mix, and Morrigan is a warrior on her own, and Azriel at some point falls in love with her, and then Cassian gets a little jealous about it. The fact that Cassian didn't have feelings for Azriel as well is wild to me, but that's another conversation for another day. Anyway, Morrigan is promised to Eris. Morrigan is not about this, more than likely because she is very, very gay. So she asks Cassian to fall on his proverbial sword and sleep with her and take her maidenhead. And Cassian's like, hell yeah, because he's a teenage boy. He's like, absolutely, yes, I will fuck you for science. And Azriel's heard about it, but I don't think it's as bad as Cassian thought that it was. Because I think that Azriel was very quiet about it. He's very chill. Not that he's chill, but he's not going to show anybody his emotions like that. So either Cassian is assuming that Azriel felt worse about it than he did, or Azriel had a show of emotion that was so big at that point that Cassian had no choice but to take it that way. I guess while this is happening, Rhysand and Cassian are sent to the front lines, and Azriel is kept by Rhysand's father. And Rhysand is looking for Cassian among the bodies, and he knows that Azriel isn't going to be there because Azriel's with his father. And we know that Cassian lived, but the whole Morrigan slept with Cassian and fucked up the whole thing with the Autumn Court thing happened. So Rhysand's father, as the High Lord, he, I think, allows the Court of Nightmares to do horrible things to Morrigan. And I think he makes Azriel partake in it, which is part of the reason why he feels like he can't touch Elaine without sullying her. Morrigan is then left with a nail in her uterus at the Autumn Court. Eris sees her, but he doesn't take her. He doesn't touch her because if he touches her, she's theirs at that point. So he leaves her in the woods, which is why Azriel and Cassian hate him, because it's basically you had a chance to help her, but you didn't. But Eris at this point must be aware that Morrigan is gay, which is why I think he was letting her slide at that point. Azriel goes to rescue her because I think he would know where she was. One, because of the shadows, and two, because he was there when she was tortured and then dumped in the woods. And I think maybe he was going to say something to her. He might have been confessing his love, but he might have also been apologizing for his part in all of this, or he might have been confessing to her that he was there when it happened so that she could condemn him and make his self-worth that much worse. But she walks away, and it's never brought up again, which makes me think that Azriel wasn't trying to confess his love to Morrigan on that day where he goes to rescue her, because I think if he had been trying to confess his love to her, he would have kept trying. He would have, because if he was able to come out and say it on the day where he rescued her from being left in the autumn woods after getting a nail to the uterus, he could say basically anything he wants at that point. Not that he could say anything he wants, but I think he would feel freer to speak his mind if he was able to speak his mind in that moment. Which makes me think that what Azriel was trying to say to Morrigan was actually more of a confession about he was there and he's sorry, and because Morrigan walked away from him, I think he's kept that inside of him for 500 years. So I think any Azriel arc in the current story, whether if it's with Elaine or it's with Gwyneth, it will have to involve Morrigan verbally forgiving him at this point for this instance. Anyway, on the other side of the war is Amarantha and Clithia, and Jurian goes and does like his sneaky thing with Clithia and has her killed and all that shit. But Amarantha has a thing for Tamlin's father. And Tamlin's father like makes an attack upon Rhysand's family, and he kills his mom and his sister. Now, the reason why I don't believe that Rhysand's mom and his sister are dead is because of the way that Tamlin reacts in A Court of Wings and Ruin when Feyre asks about the wings. Like, he's very like standoffish about it, and he has every reason to hate Rhysand at this point. Like, he thinks that Rhysand like kidnapped his would-be wife and like brainwashed her for months. So Tamlin wouldn't have a reason to lie to Feyre at this point, at this juncture, about what happened with Rhysand's family. But when he speaks about it, he's actually very guilty about it. He's very like, oh, like we burned the wings, like we don't have them. Like he's very like it rang a little false to me. So Rhysand's mom and sister, they're out of the equation. They are either dead or they got, shoved into the Starlight Pool and brought to Crescent City or whatever. This leads Rhysand's dad and Rhysand to go and like kill Tamlin's family as revenge. And Rhysand is like, don't kill Tamlin. Like, please do not kill Tamlin, because Tamlin is his friend. So Rhysand and his father, they go tearing through the Spring Court. They kill all these people, and Tamlin wakes up and senses or smells his father's blood and his brother's blood on Rhysand and his father. So Tamlin just kills Rhysand's dad right there. And then the High Lord magic shifts from their fathers to Rhysand and Tamlin, and at that point they're enemies for life. And it's because of this history that Amarantha targets Tamlin and Rhysand the way that she does. Because Amarantha had a thing for Tamlin's father. So she's like, hey, Tamlin, like, come on into bed with me. And Tamlin's like, no, fuck you. Like, I would rather get with a human. And that kicks off the first ACOTAR book. But then, because Rhysand's father killed Tamlin's father, Amarantha takes it out on Rhysand and then makes Rhysand basically warm her bed for her while she's waiting for Tamlin to come around, which is so fucked up. If there's anything that I don't blame Rhysand for at all, it's how he handled Under the Mountain. There's only so many ways to get through that Under the Mountain experience and come away at all, let alone morally unscathed. So he did what he had to do. Anyway, that's how I think the timeline fits in regards to Rhysand's father and like Rhysand and Tamlin and all that. I don't know if you were looking for this whole timeline, but I kind of gave you one anyway. I hope you liked it. I kind of had fun talking about this too, so thank you.